Okay, hello. Today is the 16th of May 2023, and we'll talk about a great Roman architect and artist, Pietro da Cortona. Let's look first at a painting showing this very important Baroque artist and architect who was in the vicinity, so to speak, of Bernini and Borromini. Let's read a little bit about him. Well, he actually died on the 16th of May. I pay homages to architects, important architects, both on the days when they died and the days when they were born. Some people think that when we die, it's another birth into the life, into the afterlife, but we don't know about that. Anyway, Pietro da Cortona, born on the 1st of November, 1596, and died on the 16th of May, 1669. And that's the reason we talk about him today, because today is the 16th of May. Was an Italian Baroque painter and architect. Along with his contemporaries and rivals, Gian Lorenzo Bernini and Francesco Borromini, he was one of the key figures in the emergence of Roman Baroque architecture. He was also an important designer of interior decorations. He was born Pietro Berrettini, but is primarily known by the name of his native town of Cortona in Tuscany. He worked mainly in Rome and Florence. He is best known for his frescoed ceilings, such as the vault of the Salone or main salon of the Palazzo Barberini in Rome, and carried out extensive painting and decorative schemes for the Medici family in Florence and for the Oratorian fathers of the Church of Santa Maria in Vallicella in Rome. He also painted numerous canvases. Only a limited number of his architectural projects were built, but nonetheless they are as distinctive and as inventive as those of his rivals. And let's recall, his rivals were Bernini and Borromini, nothing less. This was the man in a later day engraving. Some drawings by Pietro da Cortona, and all those masters drew impeccably. You know, it is an art that they honored with their best, and I wish we could say the same thing today. But anyway, Pietro da Cortona, meaning Pietro living or being born in Cortona in Tuscany. As I read, he was also a painter. So he acted in painting with the same intensity and creativity as he did in architecture. And painting, well, both painting and architecture cannot read themselves from drawing. So the art of drawing was essential for both painting and architecture, and sculpture as well. Pietro da Cortona. So as I read, you know, he was a Baroque artist and architect, and we see that very well in this, you know, graphic work. Because the Baroque art is tumultuous, is rich, is a vortex of bodies in the case of drawing or painting, or volumes in the case of architecture. It's very dynamic. This is a great drawing. I showed it twice because of it. Anyway, paintings by Pietro da Cortona. Look at this ceiling. I mean, just this ceiling done by Pietro da Cortona would have legitimized him to be part of the great history of art of the world. And it moves me again when I see, you know, such an exquisite talent in drawing and painting, also do architecture and apply the talents he had to the art of architecture. And you are going to see what he built. But this is truly a memorable work. You know, it's gigantic and it's intricate and it's rich. And what else can we say? But as we read, also he painted canvases. I don't know when painting on canvas started, but it was a more recent date. In a certain way, for the artists at the time was easier because they had already a narrative to work with. They were not disoriented by an absolute freedom. You know, it was based on the biblical text, and they just tried their best to illustrate through the sensibility of their time, the biblical text. But today we are free. So we can do anything. We can do abstract art, we can do narrative art, but who is thinking today to illustrate the narration of the Bible? There might be some artists somewhere, but they are not the fashionable ones, that's for sure. Anyway, paintings, colors, bodies, myth, religion, spirit, ceilings, you know, it's creativity. It's the salvation for the human who has to find a way to, in a way, to fight death. That's about it, because art is the transgression of death, or a change to transgress death, even as an illusion, because nothing in the end really lasts. But we talk here about an architect, an artist who lived some centuries before us. So, you know, the longevity of art is appreciable. No wonder the Latin said, ars longa vita brevis. Art is long, life is short. Whatever Lebbeus might have said when he said, or would have meant when he said that life is long and art is short. But I'm not sure he truly believed it. Look at this ceiling. Or what did Pietro da Cortona feel when he painted this ceiling? Buildings by Pietro da Cortona. And this is the most famous, is a church in Rome, but he designed only the entrance into the church, the western facade, this one. It doesn't matter, you know, clean or unclean, you know, refurbished or unrefurbished, is still glorious. I don't know what this one is. Is a different church, and I don't know how this one is named, unfortunately. The other one was Santa Maria. I think I have here in detail. Let's see, just a second. I'm afraid I have to make a new presentation about him. Yes, this one is deficient in the sense that the works are not shown in a chronological order, and they are not even named. Santa Maria de la Pace is this one. I mean, this one, yes. this one. Is famous because it's not very explicit in this picture, because you see the elevation is convex, but there is also the concavity. I hope I have the plan of this famous church in Rome here. I'm also afraid that in my rush to prepare many presentations today, I chose, because I have several presentations on Pietro da Cortona. I know I have one with a plan of the church, and I didn't see it here yet. Let's hope it a little bit later it will show up. This is very interesting, the urban context of this church, because it's a very, rather narrow street, and the church comes towards you. And he configured the western elevation of this church in this way. It's and Bramante, another great early Renaissance architect in Rome, designed the cloister of this church. But if we don't see the plan, you can't visualize where it is and how it is. I'm afraid that this presentation doesn't go well because of me, because I have to either create another presentation or find the one, because I do think I have another one on him that is better. I'm afraid this is a failure now. I'm mad at myself because that's not how I present things. I usually present them in a more ordered way. And in the case of Pietro da Cortona, I only have this aide-memoire of images of his work, but they are not presented well. I don't understand what's going on here. I go quickly now because I don't want to tire you off with a presentation which is deficient. And it is deficient. Yes, these are his works, but they are not identified and they are not in a chronological order. So I'm as confused as you are. Sorry about this. I don't even know why I continue to talk in English, because I'm not going to post this on YouTube. But it is Pietro da Cortona. I mean, whatever you see here is Pietro da Cortona. Church of Santi Luca, finally a naming, but it's not that church that it's another church. It's not his most famous one. Santa Maria della Pace. This is the one that I first showed, and this is truly one of the most important Baroque buildings in Rome. 1656, 1667. Santa Maria della Pace. I mentioned it before, and we saw some images. Now, finally, here is the plan. So he worked, Pietro da Cortona worked only, he only did the entrance, the western facade of the building. And he had this idea, which is very intriguing, you know, because the space is narrow, and he made it even narrower by advancing with the entrance towards the one who comes towards the street. So he's almost attacking the one who approaches it. And here you see a fragment of the cloister by Bramante. I don't know who built the whole church. It wasn't Pietro da Cortona. But we notice here the octagon, extremely important in architecture. And I mentioned this before, and I mention it again. Leonardo da Vinci, almost all his sketches of sacred buildings were done with an octagonal plan. So again, Pietro da Cortona was responsible for the western elevation of this church, the Santa Maria della Pace. We see here the curvatures of the Baroque and the tension between convex and concave. It's a very good building and one of the most important Baroque buildings in Rome. Again, the whole church was built by someone else. I don't know who built it, but the entrance is by Pietro da Cortona. We know that conventionally all the churches have the entrance on the western facade, and then on the other side is the altar, the east, where the sun rises. It's not accidental, this at all. Santa Maria della Pace, Pietro da Cortona. So this was done by Pietro da Cortona. The cloister was done by Bramante, and I don't know who did the whole building. Maybe Pietro da Cortona had some interventions inside the building too, but the building was prior to the front western facade, as we can see today. We see here the opposing curvatures and the dialectics between them. You know, this creates tension in Baroque architecture, and not only in Baroque architecture, but Baroque architecture is animated by such conflicts and such tensions. That's why it's so dynamic. Santa Maria in Via Lata, also in Rome, another church by Pietro da Cortona. This one very interesting, with its double, with the two floors. Not bad. So how is this called? Santa Maria della, no, Santa Maria in Via Lata. In Via Lata, but Via doesn't seem to be so wide. You know, Via is a road or a street. Or maybe it is, and it's just not shown here. This is the, you know, a later drawing of the facade, the western facade, Santa Maria in Via Lata. It's clear that at that time, you know, the architects worked mainly for beauty. That was their concern. They didn't have, you know, functionalist concerns too much. You know, how to place the refrigerator properly in the kitchen, or how to solve a parking lot or whatever. No, that was not what they did. These columns I don't like. They are too busy. I advocate the ornament, but I think these columns are tiring with excessive ornamentation or decoration, should I say. Capella di San Francesco Severio, Chiesa del Gesù. Now, did Pietro da Cortona employ such rich marble for the columns? It's possible. For me, they are a little bit tiring, despite my admiration for Pietro da Cortona. Gavotti Chapel in San Nicola da Tolentino. I wonder what the people in that time thought, you know, why didn't they protest that all the riches of a town, you know, went into building churches, and people lived, most of them in poverty, in, you know, in unglorious circumstances. But they were probably happy that, you know, the longing for the infinite was illustrated through churches, through chapels, with the employment of the greatest artists and architects. Now, this is a very interesting work, and I'm happy it is part of this presentation, imperfect and problematic as it is, and I apologize for it. But this work by Pietro da Cortona is amazing. It's graphic work, but it's very, very provocative, and you will see why. Tabule anatomiche. You know, it's descriptive about the anatomy of a body, of a human body, but the posture of the, I mean, you know, a skeleton doesn't sit. First of all, a skeleton doesn't sit. But look at the, you know, the two legs, you know, one above the other. So it's this mixture between descriptive anatomical drawing and, you know, the movement of a human body as if it is alive. Or here, look, incredible, Pietro da Cortona, a skeleton. So it's done for didactic reasons, to see the, you know, the bones. But you know, why is the skeleton holding a mirror or you know, some kind of a framed work, artwork showing other parts of his physiognomy? Or look at this one. You know, the skeleton. Look at the rhetorics of the body of bones. The skeletal, you know, structure of the body opened up like this, rhetorically, theatrically. I find these illustrations which were done, and I don't know who engraved them, but he did the drawings, incredible. And look at the posture, he almost of a dandy. Is a dandy skeleton, you know, or a skeleton as a dandy. And the posture, you know, the positioning of the legs. Very amusing and very interesting. Pietro da Cortona. Or look at this one. It was not just science, but it was also art, because it's kind of halfway between life and death. The skeleton is, you know, belongs to death. The fleshed body belongs to life, and here you have both. I find these engravings very modern, actually. Or this one, look. Theatrical, rhetorical skeletons. Or this one. The skeleton is showing us details of what it is. It's a pensive, it's a reflective skeleton. It's a skeleton which is still somehow mysteriously alive. I mean, it holds a mirror, it holds another picture, you know. The skeleton is presenting to us something in a evocative, eloquent gesture. Pietro da Cortona, the Baroque artist and architect whose rivals were Borromini and Bernini. I wonder if the artificial intelligence we are so fond of right now could imagine something like this. Maybe. That's it. So this was the presentation, imperfect as it was, about Pietro da Cortona.